Good afternoon, members. It is the appointed time and we have a quorum. I call to order today's meeting. Item 1 on the agenda, information paper issued since last meeting. Since the last meeting, the Secretariat has not issued any information paper. Item 2, items for discussion at the next meeting. The next regular meeting will be held at 2:30 p.m. on Tuesday, 15th of July, 2025. One item has been proposed by the administration, that is promotion of inward investment. Any views from members? That is agreed. Moving on to item 3, review of the registered designs regime. We will first invite the administration to come in. Welcome, Undersecretary for Commerce and Economic Development, Dr. Bernard Chan, and also the DS and PAS, as well as Deputy Director of Intellectual Property, as well as the team. Undersecretary, when you are ready, please walk us through the paper. Thank you, Chairman. Good afternoon, members. According to the policy address, we will conduct a comprehensive review of our registered designs regime to make sure that it is up to date and aligns with current international standards. In fact, the regime we are using has been in use for 25 years. With innovation in technology and also integration of industries, there is a need to review the regime and update it so that it aligns with the developments of technology and the industries. We have reviewed the legal safeguard of the system, the application process for registration, and also the post-registration management. Now, the Intellectual Property Department has started the relevant work. A comprehensive review has been conducted on the entire regime. Now, I will invite Mr. Thomas Zhang, Deputy Director of Intellectual Property, to give us a presentation, and then we will take questions from members. Thomas. Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, members. Now, to assist members in understanding the discussion today, we have prepared a PowerPoint. To list out the categories of intellectual properties we have. Now, they are registrable, and there are various kinds of intellectual properties. For example, trademarks for identifying products and also industrial designs for protecting the appearance of the products. This includes the shape, features, configuration, pattern, or ornaments of the appearance of the article. Now, trademark, on the other hand, is a category where no registration is needed. That is for protecting creative work like books, movies, and films. Now, the maximum protection for industrial design is 25 years. Allow me to explain this through a real-life example. Now, the mobile phones we are using on a daily basis, it is like a micro-computer system. There are different functions like cameras and others. So the functions themselves are protected by patents. Now, when photographs are stored in the mobile phone, they are all articles with copyrights and protected by copyrights. The features and the configuration of the mobile phones themselves are industrial designs, which are the focus of today's discussion. The Undersecretary has explained the background and the purposes of today's discussion. Now, the review has started since last year. In the process, we have made reference to the international practice and the standards, including the commonly adopted industrial design regime in various common law jurisdictions, and also the reforms in recent years. In the review, we have also conducted studies on various parts of our registered designs regime. Now, we have studied the legal definition for industrial or registered designs, which have been in use for 25 years. And also, having studied overseas experience, we are studying whether we should extend the scope to the features of designs of intangible articles. Another area of study is the registrability of designs. Now, novelty is important. The design must not be leaked before the launch of the products. So we are studying what the definition for new and novelty should be. We have also studied the workflow of applications for registration. We are considering relaxing some statutory requirements to make the regime more flexible. We want to bring more convenience to the trade. For example, the novelty requirements I mentioned, maybe there has to be a grace period for the designer or the applicants to disclose their designs to the public to a certain extent before the launch of the products. We would consider allowing the applicants to apply for deferred publication. If this flexibility is available, then the trade can adopt a more flexible market strategy. And also in the review process, we will review the requirements for application and also the assessments to be made and also information required. We will consider whether some unnecessary information can be waived. Now, in short, we will continue to conduct an in-depth study so that within this year, we can start a public consultation process by way of a public consultation paper. We will consult the public and the trade whether enhancements are needed in our designs registration regime. Now, we welcome members to give us your views concerning the topic today. I thank members for supporting our work. Thank you, Deputy Director. Now, the floor is now open. I will give each member 4 minutes, questions and answers included. Members who have pressed the button are Mr. Robert Lee, Martin Liao, Dr. Wendy Hong, and Professor Priscilla Leung. Mr. Robert Lee, please. Thank you. Concerning the protection to intellectual property, the robustness of the system is important. Patents and trademark, copyright, industrial designs, and so on. With a robust regime, we can attract a lot of designers and manufacturers to Hong Kong. I have 2 observations. In terms of trademark, For example, the jewelry industry. Some local companies have been operating under a different name in the mainland to expand their business. So these companies are interested in how the protection to their industrial designs in Hong Kong can be extended to the GBA and also the entire nation. So today we're discussing the industrial design regime, but the geographical side of the regime matters. Some companies would like to have a more wide-reaching, far-reaching regime. So besides the Bay Area, it would be even more ideal if our protection extends to the entire country or even Belt and Road countries. This will facilitate more business collaboration. Any intellectual property registered in Hong Kong should also apply to our business partners. So how will the government make the regime more convenient and powerful? And also, when there are very similar trademarks, how does the regime protect the original trademark owner? Thank you. Now, usually, protection of intellectual property is geographical. In different jurisdictions, there are different intellectual property regimes to deal with different products. That includes industrial designs, patents or trademarks, and so on. Now, since our systems are different, so there is not a common platform for mutual recognition. However, take trademark, for example. We mentioned the Madrid Protocol. So by applying for a registration in Hong Kong, our system can be extended to the management of trademark in other jurisdictions without applying for the registration anew. The Madrid Protocol provides for a convenient pathway for trademark owners to manage their trademarks, especially when the trademarks are used in different markets. This will help lower the business cost. But mutual recognition is more challenging. And I agree with the member. The Hong Kong SAR government has been updating our intellectual property system, for example, patents, trademarks, copyrights. For copyright, we have just introduced a law to better protect copyright in the digital environment. And since 2019, we have launched the original patents grant system. Now, with better track record in collaborating with other jurisdictions, we can speed up the process. Thank you. Next, Mr. Martin Liao. Thank you, Chairman. The paper says that the administration would consider making reference to the EU's reform regime to extend the scope to non-physical form, including virtual designs and animated designs and so on. I support this. This will better protect our innovative products. However, the EU does not require the designer to disclose the extent of AI involvement. So when we are reviewing our industrial design regime, will the government consider making AI-generated images in scope, for example, requiring the designers to disclose the process of design and also the involvement of AI and human creativity, and also whether AI would be introduced as an assessment tool to help the assessor assess the products.
The Deputy Director, please. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Dr. Liu, for your question. Thank you for pointing out the overlapping areas of AI generated processes and manual generated processes. We do have some existing protection under our current provisions. For instance, if there are AI-generated images that have no human involvement, then we do have legal framework to decide how this the patent or the copyright should be granted. That is, the person designing this or fostering the production or generation of these images would be the copyright owner. We do agree that the AI involvement would be more and more in the future in design and in the creative processes. We keep an open mind in that, and we would also consider this area. For instance, for designs registration, how we could cover this area. As regards whether we would consider using AI to conduct examination of the copyright applications, we are aware that there are certain jurisdictions that are trying to make use of technology, especially AI, to conduct search or examination so that the examiners could expedite their processes of scrutinizing the applications. If possible, of course, we would also try that, and we would draw reference from our counterparts both on mainland China and overseas to see how we can make use of latest technology to assist us in adding value to our processes and to our existing regimes. Thank you. Well, Deputy Director, you just mentioned that with resources available, how much resources would be needed? Well, of course, we don't have an exact amount, but for IT investment, if we're going to build an IT system, we would need over about 10 million Hong Kong dollars. So we have to consider whether resources are available before we could decide on doing that. Technology is developing very rapidly. We also have to see whether we could apply certain technologies in the Hong Kong environment. One point to supplement, in the policy address of last year, there was a point set out that we would make use of an electronic system to assist members of the public to search trademark images. We have built the system so members of the public could just insert their search trademark, and then the system would help them to search whether this trademark has already been registered or similar trademarks have been registered. This is an example of how we have made use of technology to enhance our services to the general public. All right, I think you have repeated certain points. That is, you mentioned about the availability of resources. But I think that if it is necessary and if it is helpful to our regime, you're talking only about $10 million or so. So I hope that if you really need that sort of resources, you could raise the requirement. I think it is reasonable to have this input or additional resources. Any follow-up? Mr. Liu, no. Dr. Wendy Ho, please. Thank you, Chair. We have to, Hong Kong strives to develop into a copyright and also trademark protection regime. We have to really enhance our regime so as to align Hong Kong with the international standards. I am in support of this review, and I think that we really have to enhance our existing regime. I have a few points to make. First, about the Labubu from Pop Mart. The designer is from Hong Kong. Actually, Hong Kong does have a lot of talents, and We do have a lot of designs that have potential for commercialization. However, unfortunately, we are still lagging behind. We only stay at the stage of coming up with designs, with good designs that are popular worldwide. Would the government consider assisting local designers to go through commercialization of their designs? For instance, for registration, if the can the government provide incentives so that the IP can continue to give full play to their potentials? For instance, waiving part of their registration fee. And I also understand that the administration is considering to give a grace period for filing applications and deferred publication. I'd like to ask about the grace period. If during the grace period the design has been leaked or exploited commercially, or if there are similar designs coming up from the market, will that design still be protected by the IP regime? And under the existing regime, is it possible to stop other parties continue to use a certain design if that design has already submitted application for registration? Are there any fine or penalty if there are other parties who are using or doing commercial exploitation of a similar design? And third point, I understand that an applicant has to submit applications to different departments. If certain overseas enterprises, if they want to apply for registration in Hong Kong so that their products can also be used not just in Hong Kong but also in mainland China, can we perhaps foster that application process? For instance, would we consider assisting enterprises to apply for IP protection across the border, that is, on the mainland? I will answer simply, and then I'll ask our Deputy Director to supplement. As stated on the paper, we would consider in-depth review of our existing regime from different perspectives, well, including application process, grace period for filing applications and deferred publication, etc. We are open and we would like to listen to the views of members as well as the other stakeholders. Well, after the completion of our review process, we will report to members again about the result of our review, and also we will then conduct a public consultation. You also ask whether we would seek collaboration with other entities or other jurisdictions. Well, as mentioned just now, there is a Madrid Protocol which could serve a similar purpose. For instance, there would be a single platform so that applicant could just submit application on that platform and protection could be extended to different areas or different jurisdictions. We will continue to liaise with our peers on the mainland to see if there could be this kind of extended protection. But then, as mentioned just now, the protection of IP rights are geographical. For patents, for instance, we do have original grant patents. If there are a good track record, then we could continue to see whether we could expedite the process of sort of so-called mutual recognition, not just in Hong Kong but also across the border. Deputy Director, any supplement? I have 2 points to make. Regarding tax incentive, we are looking into it. Of course, we have to discuss further with the Inland Revenue Department to see if certain incentives are feasible. For instance, we could encourage local R&D. Thanks to the support of the LegCo, last year we already have launched the patent box sort of tax incentive protocol. That is to give tax incentive to the original to the designers. That is, it's dropped. Tax level has dropped by 5%, and also about deferred publication. Would it affect the rights of the original designer? The answer is no. If the designer has submitted his application, and if it is approved, then the protection period will start not only from the date of publication. Actually, it will start from the date of the application. So, in other words, the owner's right could be protected. Professor Priscilla Leung, Chairman. First of all, I am in support of this paper, especially about the review of the registered designs regime. I really think we should have an enhanced regime and also have a more robust protection. But then we are facing very keen competition. As we know, there are a lot of designs that are AI generated and or non-physical designs. Well, we have the internet now. The geographical border is now very blurred. If you require the owner to submit application in different areas or different jurisdictions, it would not be feasible because they would just perhaps put it online and it would go viral, and then it will be seen all over the world. You mentioned on paper that you are discussing with other jurisdictions, for instance, about what's in practice in the EU and United Kingdom to provide another form of substantive design right for designs that have been commercially exploited but not registered. Perhaps we should give priority to those designs that have been published or that have been seen on the web. Could we perhaps make use of the concept of plagiarism? For instance, there should be a software keeping all the record of the contents, the written contents that have been published or made worldwide. Could we do it the same way to the images or AI-generated images or non-physical designs? So I think we have to make it clearer here and provide better protection to the original designers. I'd like to hear the views from the administration, and I'd like to know what our counterparts are doing worldwide. We hope to step up with our review, and I think this is very important. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Professor Leung. We do understand that there are some industries that have in which their products have a very short or relatively shorter lifespan. Well, as mentioned, some industries might want to have their design rights protected as soon as possible and to prevent infringement. There are other jurisdictions, for instance, the UK and the EU. They have adopted different approaches. For instance, they provide shorter-term legal protection. In the UK, there are some design rights that have not been registered. The protection period is up to about 10 years. For EU, the protection period of these unregistered designs is about 3 years. So we will draw reference from these different jurisdictions so that we could enhance our existing regime.
Chairman, if I may, I think considering everything, 3 years is quite sufficient given the speed that technology is developing nowadays. Now, for virtual models and characters, I will take a protection period of 10 years. Thank you for your suggestion. Next, Professor William Wong. Thank you, Chairman. I have 2 questions and 2 suggestions. First of all, the 2 suggestions. First, as mentioned by the Deputy Director, today's topic is industrial design, but there are also some mentionings of other intellectual property protection as well. Now, patents compared with copyrights, trademark, and industrial designs, they are very different things. The latter 3 are downloadable, so to speak. I can copy it if I am allowed. Now also, since we now have generative AI, you can't prevent people from making creation, using or exploiting creative works. Now we need to have a formula or an assessment regime to determine how much percentage in the design was AI involved. There must be something like an assessment regime for copying or plagiarism. Now, copyright is similar to industrial design. Now, we usually use Turnitin.com and VeriGuide to use the computer to check the extent of similarity between works. Now, since we now have generative AI, we now have softwares or programs to check to what extent was AI involved in the creation of the work. If the extent is too high, then the school will not accept the work or the product. Now maybe we can have something like that for our regime. Now, as far as I understand, according to the international standard, the patent duration is 15 years. In Hong Kong, it is 25 years, but you have to renew the patent every 5 years. So will the government consider extending the duration of our industrial design? For example, extending it to 15 years. For each application, that would save a lot of time and cost. Undersecretary, thank you, Professor Wong, for your suggestions. We will consider them, and I will invite the Deputy Director to reply. Professor Wong, thank you for your observations. About the use of software, we need to keep up to date with the market. Now, this review of regime is mainly on the legal framework and also the procedures. In terms of operability, of course, we are willing to look at the latest technology and consider how they can be used to help our work. About the duration of the protection for industrial designs, the duration differs from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. There are some are 10 years, some are 15 years. In Hong Kong, ours is 25 years. There are no justification that the length of 25 years is too long or inappropriate. It is still in alignment with the international standard. Now, after the start of the public consultation period, we will be happy to consider views from the public and members to further enhance our regime. Professor Wong? Now, we are using a period of 25 years for our protection. Now, in this digital era, the shorter the protection, the better. that will incentivize the private markets to innovate. When the protection is so long, newcomers can't enter the market. And also, the 5-yearly assessments cost a lot of money, and please consider changing it. Mr. Dennis Leung. Thank you, Chairman. This review exercise is one of the important proposals in the policy address. I have 3 questions. Paragraph 9A, the paper mentions the design of digital products. On commercial designs of digital products, what does that mean? And also, for these designs to be registered in Hong Kong, do we have the capacity to assess these applications? When there are applicants from outside Hong Kong, can our regime cope with them? And also about the grace period. Is the grace period common in the international world? And with the grace period, will there be sufficient safeguard for registered industrial designs? Now, one of the role of our 8 centers' role is the regional IP hub. So what is the status of our IP trade in Hong Kong? After the review of the IP regime and also the legislative amendments to enhance the regime, how much progress will we make in terms of fulfilling our position as the regional IP hub? Under Secretary, I will take the 3rd question first. IP trading. Now, some time ago, we have conducted some surveys on IP-intensive industries. They account for 32.7% of our GDP and also higher, 29.1% of our workforce. So IP regime, including patents, industrial designs, trademarks, and copyright, we need to keep it up to date and align with the international standards. If so, we can attract more IP-intensive industries and creative industries to settle in Hong Kong and enhance their share in our economy. I will now invite the Deputy Director to answer the other questions. Concerning designs of digital products, what are some of the examples? At present, our industrial design regime does not cover digital products. They are mainly products presented in a visual manner, for example, images, and also design of vehicles and cars in digital games. So these products can be sold on the internet. For example, purchasing a skin for a racing cars in a race car in a racing game. So we want to suitably relax our regime to cover products presented in a virtual manner. Now, in EU, Singapore, and Australia, there are different practices, and we will make reference to all of them. About the grace period, there are existing mechanisms for applicants to apply for a registration even though the product has been disclosed to a certain extent before the registration. Now, in certain overseas countries, the restriction is less than our regime. So it would facilitate business practices like pre-launching or offering a trial period for their products. So we will see how we can change the regime to tie in with the developments of the industries. But the grace period will not be indefinite. And also a grace period will only be offered for exceptional circumstances. Thank you. I'm the last to speak. I have a question. I think we have all heard on the news that recently there was a dumpling manufacturer in Korea, and it's applied for a patent or industrial design registration in the US, and it was granted. And there were criticisms that the US industrial design system or regime is a joke. And there are lots of legal loopholes in the regime. On the other hand, our country has a 5,000-year-long culture, and dumplings are one of our cultural gem. How can we let a Korean dumpling manufacturer to register these products in the US? Now, coming back to Hong Kong, is this factor, meaning culture, valid in the industrial design regime? In the application process, how can we ensure that some companies will not usurp the cultural products of other cultures? Now, this is quite controversial, and as Chinese, we should be proactive in protecting our own culture. So can the Undersecretary share with us how these cases will be dealt with in the future? Deputy Director. Thank you, Chairman, for your question. Now, let me say this. I cannot comment on individual cases, but I emphasize that our industrial design regime requires the products to be new and novel. Only then can the products be allowed to register. Now, in our examination work, the ordinance empowers the director so that if they think that the relevant design of the products does not meet the requirements of new and novel, then they have the power to refuse registration of the product. I assure you, we will keep the gate stringently. Now, even if an approval is given, there is a mechanism. I beg your pardon. My question is whether you would consider factors including traditional culture in the assessment process. So you said you would consider each case, but my question was very specific. I hope you will also consider cultural factors. Please answer my questions, don't digress. Now, culture, if the product has been widely known among other cultures, for example, traditional lantern or paper cups, we would not allow registration for these products. So rather than the factor of traditional culture, I would say the consideration should be whether the product has been widely known by others. Now, of course, We can't interfere with how other countries deal with these cases. The tradition of our country is non-interference with other countries' internal dealings. But since our country has a 5,000-year rich culture, we have a very high cultural standpoint. So we need to keep the gate. That's my main concern. That's why I'm raising this case for your consideration. We can't just say that if this product isn't very popular, then it can be registered. Now, dumplings are a widely known product. There may be some differences in terms of the manufacturing process, but it is not a novel product. So I hope you can consider the cultural background of each application.
Yes, Chairman, I do agree to what you said. In promoting commercialization of industrial designs and other designs, we do have to make use of different platforms to do our promotion. Well, talking about designs, we are talking about designs that have to be manufactured through a kind of industrial process. But yes, we have taken note of the chairman's point. We will also consider the cultural elements, and even for handicrafts, it could also be a kind of design. We would consider the points that the chairman has raised and to see if we could extend the protection of our regime to these cultural designs. Thank you. Let's move on to the next agenda item. Item number 4, latest developments of the Hong Kong Science Park and InnoParks. First, let's invite the administration and representatives from the Hong Kong Science and Technology Park to enter the room. First of all, we'd like to welcome the administration and representatives from the Hong Kong Science and Technology Park. If you're ready, Mr. Ivan Lee, could you please take us through the paper? Thank you, Chairman. I'm very glad to come here to report to members about our latest development of the Hong Kong Science Park and InnoPark. The Hong Kong STPC provides quality infrastructure facilities and support services for innovation and technology development in Hong Kong. Well, at present, we have providing support to over 1,600 enterprises and also one-stop services to these enterprises. There are over 23,000 people working in the science park, among which over 15,000 are R&D personnel. And there are 17 enterprises that have successfully go through the IPO after entering our park. And we are providing support, both funding support and other support to the startup companies in our science park. We also provide spaces for for new industrialization and also nurture talents in the R&D sector. I would like to invite the CEO of the HKSTPC, Mr. Albert Wong, to introduce to members about our latest work. Thank you, Chair. Members, good afternoon. I would not be going through these PowerPoint in detail. I hope I can leave more time for members to raise questions. Well, the science park, it's in Pak Shek Kok, and for the science and technology park, it's comprised of the InnoParks and also the science park. So we manage not just the science park, but also a number of InnoParks in different locations. Well, this is sort of our results. We are we have established for about 23 to 24 years, and our occupancy rate is close to 95%. We do have enough space, but then it's quite popular. It's 95% occupied. And for InnoParks, the occupancy rate is around 87%. And we have over 23,000 people in our workforce and over 15,000 R&D personnel. We have over 1,600 enterprises, and that's excluding startups. Including startups, that would be over 2,000 of them altogether. Not just for quantity, as regards quality, we really hope to add value to our industry. We try to look for developments or commercialization opportunities both in Hong Kong and overseas. I will spend a bit more time on that later on. We also have a startup fund. We have about 1 billion Hong Kong dollars for a startup fund. There are over 30 enterprises, and 1 per 17x. That means that $1 invested, it could be extended into 17. So we have altogether generated over 111 billion Hong Kong dollars and over 420 projects. We also have some private funds injected. So for the science park, it is a we have a value of 2.2 billion Hong Kong dollars in our asset management. We have about 115 investment companies. And for the science park, I'm sure that if you visit our park, you can feel that it's has a very active ambience. We have a lot of activities, including the pets, and also we encourage family to come to our park. We have lots of facilities, including restaurants, cafes, and we welcome members of the public to visit our park. And in addition to our labs, we of course have a lot of different labs, including data modeling, computing labs, and also biomedical labs. We hope to provide the enterprises coming into our park to begin their work as soon as possible and could make use of our infrastructure and our services in the park. So we encourage startups, and we encourage people starting their businesses. Well, for those who are still staying with us after graduation from our various programs, there are over about 600 of them. And we have different programs. For instance, the InQ Bio program, we provide them with 1.3 million Hong Kong dollars for them to start their programs. And there are about 300 or 400 of such companies in the park. And before the IncuBio program, we have acceleration program. Well, for instance, for some young people, they may not have the funding needed to start their businesses. So we provide them with the startup money so that they could work with us, or we sort of guide them throughout the way. There are about 700 to 1,000 of such companies. We hope to encourage more people to start their businesses. And every year for the top 10 to 20 companies, we will provide them with more funding and more support. And there will be about 90 to 100 of such companies in which we have a sort of equity in their companies. Well, of course, not all of them could be successful, but then we provide them with the support and services necessary. And we hope to be able to achieve good quantity as well as high quality in our process. And for Green Tech Hub, we turn the Inno Center in Kowloon Tong into a Green Tech Hub. There are over 200 green technology enterprises in the InnoCenter and over 2,000 people in the workforce in the InnoCenter. In March this year, we started launching different programs, and we encourage and we are collaborating with 16 institutions, including 8 research institutions and 8 universities. We also have our park in the Sentin Technopole. So there are 20 hectares of new land given to the Hong Kong Science Park for development and operation. We hope that by 2027 we'll be able to commence our construction work, and the first batch will be delivered to us as soon as possible, and we could start building the first and the second tower in this 2.5 hectare of land. That is, within 10 years, we will build sort of another new science and technology park in Sentin Technopole. We have different labs there, including a biobank with different biospecimens. It's over 5,300 square feet, and that would be completed by the third quarter of it was completed last year. And we also have MEC, which could be in operation or within this year. And 18W building, it could be ready by maybe a few months within this year. And we also attach a lot of importance to nurturing new talents. Fanny, our Chief Talent Officer, is in charge of that. We try to attract talents from all over the world, and also, as important, we strive to attract talents from mainland China to come to our science park. And we have also recruited some of these talents. Last year, during the summer holiday, we have over 300 internship places, and for this year, there will be over 400 of these internship places in our park. For instance, in Huawei, they started recruiting people in our science park. They have a research lab in the park, and there are over 700 people working there. They are from mainland China, and they focus in doing microelectronics design. And they try to expand their workforce from the existing 700 to over 1,500 or even to 3,000. Fanny and I went to Stanford University in Berkeley to try to recruit talents to come to our science park. And I think it is very important to Hong Kong because with talents, we will be able to attract more top-notch global enterprises to come to Hong Kong. It's very important to nurture local talents, but it's also important to attract talents from overseas and mainland China to Hong Kong. That's about it, and I'll leave more time so that members could put questions to us, and we'll be happy to answer them. Thank you. Thank you. We now have altogether 10 members who have pressed the button to speak. I know that a number of them would like to speak earlier because they have other engagements. If members agree, I would perhaps advance their priority or the speaking order. Professor Priscilla Leung has requested to speak earlier, so perhaps Professor Leung, you could be the fourth one to speak if Mr. Kenneth Falk would agree to that. You agree, Mr. Falk? To let Professor Leung speak first? All right, it would be Mr. Robert Lee, Mr. Sunny Tan, Mr. Kenneth Falk, and Mr. Shanghai Lung, Professor Priscilla Leung. Mr. Shanghai Lung, Mr. Tang Yue Heng, Mr. Dennis Leung, Mr. Edmund Wong, Dr. Wendy Hong, and Mr. William Wong. All right, 4 minutes, question and answer included. Mr. Robert Lee.
Thank you, Chairman. I thank the administration for briefing us on the latest developments of the Hong Kong Science Park and InnoParks. I have 2 questions. How are we utilizing our resources and also investments by enterprises? Now, the paper mentioned that there are some 400,000 square feet for 23 buildings, and there are some $540 million spent on hardware. And under the Enterprise Acceleration Scheme, Acceleration Program, there is funding support for market expansion and networking. So there are 103 corporations with $4 million of funding support each, with accommodation offered. So the package is very attractive for talents in the INT business. But what about abuse? Is there internal workflow to ensure that the system is not abused? For example, ensuring that the facilities are used for their designated use, and also prevents leasing of the facilities to outsiders, and also the intermediaries. How can you be sure that the relevant resources are given to your intended targets? Have you conducted any internal audits? Second question, you said there are 17 corporations which have been listed. So can you give us the names and where are they listed? Of course, we heard they would have listed in Hong Kong. And for those who chose to list outside Hong Kong, what's the reason? Did you get a feedback from them on what we can do to improve our stock market to attract them to list in our stock market? Chair? Albert? There are 2,000 companies in our park. Excluding the startups, there are some 1,600 enterprises. So besides leasing talents, we have a team of accounting managers to make sure that everything is proper. That they will be asked to leave if no results have been yielded in 3 years' time. Now, we require the startups or the corporations to engage in R&D. We meet with them regularly to ensure that subletting is not allowed in Science Park. Our team would review the progress with the tenants every 6 months. If the KPIs cannot be met, they would be asked to leave. So this mechanism has been in place for 10 years. I can tell you for sure that there is no subletting in the Science Park. Now, of course, there's no air conditioning overnight, so they can't live or stay in Science Park overnight, unless for research purposes. And we offer our $1 million of funding very prudently. We have a committee under the acceleration program to consider the applications. Now, IPO, most of them were listed in Hong Kong. We have several unicorns as well. They may not be necessarily listed, but they have a value as a startup exceeding $1 billion. Mr. Sunny Tang, I declare interest. I'm the chairman of the Productivity Council. Now, I applaud the Science Park Corporation and InnoParks for supporting our development in INT in terms of infrastructure and attracting enterprises and also driving transformation. You have done a good job. The results are remarkable. Now, paragraph 20 says that in line with the 2024 policy address, the HK Science Park Corporation would like to increase the supply of floor area for advanced manufacturing in the InnoParks to 200,000 square meters. Now, I fully agree with this direction. It will help the development of new industries in Hong Kong and attract talents to come. Now, I'm very optimistic about the development of advanced manufacturing industry in Hong Kong. Now, there are many people who told me they would like to have a mixed-use buildings. Now, 200,000 square meters of advanced manufacturing space is not enough. We have more land to meet stronger demand for advanced manufacturing sites in the future. Albert, thank you, Chairman, and thank Mr. Chan for his question. Now, let me elaborate on the AMC. There is a 1 million square feet floor space in the Advanced Manufacturing Center. This is a new thing. Multi-level, multi-purposed building. In recent years, the occupancy rate has exceeded 50%. We have already identified another site to offer another 100,000 square feet floor space. Now, I understand that Mr. Sunny Tan would like the lease to be lower. More floor spaces will be provided. Now, we are working with the Productivity Council as well. There will be a site in the Santee-Technopole for a similar purpose. It will have a similar design. So at present, I can promise you that another 100,000 square feet is coming. Now, following up on my question, if the promised 100,000 square feet will be delivered, can that tie in with the development timetable of the Santee-Technopole? I think the Science Park should work it out with the ITC. Chairman, if I may, I thank Mr. Sunny Tan for his concern on the land use of the Santee-Technopole. If doubling the existing size of the site is still insufficient, we would definitely work with the Science Park to expand the site. Now, initially, there is a site set aside in the Santee-Technopole to support modernization of industries. But if the demand is greater than expected, there is still space in the Santee-Technopole for this purpose. Professor Priscilla Leung. Chairman, thank you. I also thank the Science and Technology Parks Corporation for the figures. I'm interested in some figures as well. Now, as some members have said, it seems that the Science Park is a real estate project in many people's mind. So I will give you a chance to prove yourself, to prove to us that's not the case. Now, you said there were many unicorns. So which unicorns are born locally in Hong Kong? And also, do you have sufficient fund for supporting the startups? How do you define success for your investments? Let's say 1 in 10, there is one unicorn in every 10 investment projects. Now, given your proximity to the Chinese university, we always say that in Shanghai we have, in Shanghai and Beijing, there are science parks near the leading universities. Now, since you are so near the Chinese university, can you give us some examples that startups from the Chinese university have become unicorns because of your support? Albert. Now, on the issue or our image as a real estate project, I know this optic is very difficult to change. But I'm not telling others how much rent we are charging. I would tell people how many incubatees there are, how many laboratories are there, and how much we are investing in them. Now, we always talk about AUM, assets under management. We have a corporate venture fund with an AUM at $2.2 billion. The employees will be given the equity as a reward. Now, over the past 3 to 4 years, we have been reaching out to overseas markets. Just last year, the HAST PC has solicited businesses to the tune of some $125 million from overseas and the country. Now, these services we offer to startups is not just funding support, but also finding businesses for them and matching them with business partners. Now, I always say that 7 or 8 out of every 10 startups would not survive. So under our acceleration scheme, we hope that the situation can be turned around so that 7 or 8 startups out of 10 can survive. So we give them education and help them steer or change their direction. We have a team of experts to help startups do that. Now, in terms of fund usage, I will defer to my team. Thank you. Now, daily operation, we operate on a self-financing model. Now, 75% of our revenue is from rent. So this is sufficient for funding our daily operation. Now, we have some $200 to $300 million in profits each year, and we are reinvesting them into our incubatees. And we have several self-funded projects. Now, we spent $1 billion to build a new building, and that was paid for from our operating account. So we have no problem in terms of daily operation. Allow me to supplement. There are some 1,000 incubatees with us. Rent is free for the first year, and rent is at 50% for the second year. About unicorns, we have a dozen of unicorns, 7 of which were locally born and raised, including SenseTime, and there is one robotic company. We have Lala Move, an in silico biotechnology firm, and there are 2 local biotechnology firms collaborating with the CUHK. Now, we collaborate with other universities as well. I always say that the universities are responsible for education, while we are responsible for training and R&D. So I'm a board member of the CU Council. We always talk about the number of patents or registration, but we don't care about these. We care about the products. So the university are responsible for education, and we are responsible for commercialization. Now, I just came back from Boston. I attended Bio 2025, the largest biotechnology show in the world. Now, I went there with the 2 heads of medical schools in Hong Kong. Now, universities love collaborating with us because we have division of labor. We supplement each other. This is a very good collaboration model. Mr. Kenneth Fogg. Thank you, Chairman. 2 questions, one broader, one smaller. Now, I'm more concerned about the results of incubation, and also there are 180 technological solutions generating some $600 million of revenue. Now, I know there are some 2,400 matching workshops and also follow-up seminars. So how can you strengthen your efforts in commercializing the products? Now, there are some products which are more easily commercializable. So in the future, will we focus more on these products which are more likely to succeed? Now, I have questioned about the brand. Albert mentioned about reaching out overseas. Now, Science and Technology Park is a brand. Now, the corporate brand name is important. The S&T Parks brand in overseas markets. Now, can you do better Now, the Zhongguanchuan is already a brand, and it is garnering support from the governments in the country. Now, what about the science and technology parks? Can we do more to promote the brand? Can we have something like the S&T Park Summit in Hong Kong? Thank you.
Albert, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Kenneth, for your question. Regarding the startups, yes, the $600 million is really not a lot. But then to the startups, it's really a big help to them. For this year's KPI, we try to help them. One of the KPIs is that for these startups, they have to introduce over $100 million of revenue to, or bring in this amount of businesses to the science park. They also have to venture out. Well, commercialization is another important KPIs. And we have different seminars. We try to pitch investors with the startups. Branding is also important. We are putting in a lot of effort, but then as you know, we have to insert resources to do branding. We will also bring these startup companies to different shows. For instance, Consumers and Electrics show. We have brought people from over 50 startups and to this show, and then I brought over 16 startup representatives to Boston to attend the show. And last week in Paris, we also have an exhibition, and then we participated in it as well. I agree to what you said, Kenneth. Branding is very important. In Hong Kong, we do have our brand. The Science and Technology Park is a brand. And in Singapore, we also have brought different startups to Singapore, and we are happy with the results, but then at the same time, we have to be cautious in spending our resources and we try to be more focused in assisting these startups. Chairman, I have a point to supplement. Mr. Fogg just now has raised a very important point, how we could make big efforts to commercialize the research results. I understand that the Science and Technology Park has invited people from the industries to participate in the training of the startup personnel. For instance, there are people from the leading corporations to conduct seminars in the park. And in the paper, it's mentioned that the science park will have a new program that is called Co-Acceleration Program, which would invite major enterprises to join in the program, because these big corporations could assist the startup companies to refine their operating proposals or their business proposals. This would be a great help to the startup. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Shanghai Lung. Thank you, Chairman. First of all, I'd like to declare that my strategic consulting company is also located in the science park, and I'm also founder of the Talents Asset Company. And in the past 8 years, I've witnessed the great developments of the science park, and the science park actually has developed into a very established site, which is popular not just among the R&D people, but also among the local general public. Well, I have 3 questions. First of all, to Albert. In addition to the office space in the science park, I know that you have the InnoCell. Paragraph 13 talked about it very clearly. You have some residential spaces, over 500 residential units of it in the InnoCell adjacent to the science park. You mentioned that the rental has been raised to approximately 60 to 85, from 60% to 85% of the market rent of properties of similar quality in the nearby areas. I'd like to ask if you have further plans. Do you want to expand the space in the InnoCell so as to provide more residential spaces to the startup personnel? And Another question. We understand that you are going to expand the science park. You have the Sentin Technopole. You also have a wastewater management plant, and there are some spaces or some reclaimed area in Malushe which would also provide additional space for you. I'd like to know what is the government plan, the ultimate plan for the entire area of the science park. How big do you want it to be eventually? And question 3, I know that we have Science Park, we have Inno Center, or we have in Shenzhen also a Science Park. There are different corporations. How does the government consolidate these efforts to make sure that they do not enter into unhealthy competition among themselves? In Hong Kong, we are actually just starting up, but then our resources seems to be quite diverse and dispersed. And I hope that we could consolidate our resources so that the different parks would not enter into unhealthy competition against each other, and there will not be overlapping of duties. Yes, we have 3 different parks. Well, actually, I think members would agree that for the next stage, our next challenge would be as follows. Because the operation of the science park would take some time, but then the existing site has almost all been used up. And in the loop area, this is a major project at which we could have more space, expanded space for R&D for our use. So we have clear division of duties between the science park and the cyberport. And for the Shenzhen Hong Kong the loop, it has a lot of potentials, and we could join hands with Shenzhen so as to make the pie bigger. We do have different teams of people working there, but actually this is a kind of healthy competition existing between between us. We have to try our best to expand the ecosystem of research and technology in Hong Kong so that we could have more room for development. There are also a lot of other work to do. For instance, in the PowerPoint just now, as you can see, we would try to help biomedical companies to enter into a next phase of their development. We would also try to help them commercialize their R&D results. So there are also a lot of infrastructural work to be done. So the different science and InnoParks will try to join hands together and not enter into unhealthy competition. I think Fanny could supplement. Ms. Wong? Thank you, Chair. I'd like to make a point of supplement regarding InnoCell. Thank you, Mr. Shang, for pointing this out. Yes, you asked about our financial situation. We are glad to report that the occupancy rate is as high as 93%, and the operation is very smooth. We are confident that we could generate enough income to support our operation. We have about 93% of occupancy rate, but then there's a long queue there. There are only about 500 rooms. We have also recruited some overseas talents, so they are also in the queue waiting for some residential units in the InnoCell. We are now looking for space to expand the InnoCell, and this is under progress. Next, Mr. Tan Yueheng. Thank you, Chair. The Science and Technology Park and the Inno Centers are very important in fostering development of R&D and commercialization of R&D results in Hong Kong, and also developing Hong Kong into an R&D hub in the region. They are doing a lot of good work in the past years. I have 2 points to follow up on the paper. First, regarding future development of the Science and Technology Park. Can we perhaps have a different focuses among the different parks. We have the Science and Technology Park, we have InnoParks, we have the Shenzhen Science Park, and so forth. But then the enterprises in these various parks are often overlapping. For instance, many of them are working on biotechnology and on new materials and so forth. So could we perhaps have a kind of a different focus among these parks? Because this would be more beneficial to the future development of these parks. For instance, each park should have its own focus or its emphasis on a certain area and a certain technology or research area. Second point, regarding your funding, you have different fundings. You encourage angel funds and also venture capital funds to build a healthier ecosystem in the science park, and also the Science and Technology Park also provide a kind of matching fund so as to jointly invest in certain enterprises in the science park together with the angel fund and VC fund. You have about 3,000 odd enterprises in the park. Among them, how many of them are supported by these venture capital funds or angel funds? And Hong Kong as a financial center, I think the financial sector should have a stronger support of the R&D effort in Hong Kong. So in your various parks, do you have any special services provided to these financial corporations so that they could be more focused in assisting the development of the startup in this particular park? I'll try to take the first question first. We just now mentioned about the different division of duties among the parks. I think our priority work now is to try to expand the scope of the science and technology capabilities in Hong Kong. In our existing sites, it's already almost all used up. It is difficult for us to invite more or major enterprises to come into our park. So we do need to expand our scope so that we could have more space available to these new enterprises. And among the different parks and centers, we are actually trying to consolidate or try to look at the different duties and division of labor. And we do have board meetings regularly. We understand what the different parks are working on and to see if there could be certain kind of integration among them. Our major priority is to expand this and the overall scope of innovation and technology in Hong Kong. But on the other hand, I think it's not a bad thing to have different enterprises or enterprises with similar nature in different parks. Well, the enterprises before coming into Hong Kong, they could choose where they want to locate their company. For instance, some of them might like to go to the Loop, and some might want to go to Santine. Some might want to establish their companies in the science park. So we let them choose by themselves. We, of course, have close collaboration among the different parks, and we believe that this is a healthy development stage. And for the next question, I will defer to Albert. Yes, regarding financing of different funds, we have two different parts of funding. We have about 90 to 100 corporates joining the corporate venture fund scheme. We hope that there will be 200 to 300 companies that could benefit from the fund. And for direct investment, we have invested directly to over 20 to 30 companies in the park. And the funding scope is at present about 2 billion Hong Kong dollars. We're trying to expand that, and through our matching scheme, we hope to be able to attract more funds to expand the scope of the the scheme. And fintech is also one of our emphasis. And we also have quite a number of financial companies that are involved in our program. For instance, the Hong Kong HSBC and different banking institutions, they have joined in our program. There are also some insurance companies that are trying out the new technologies designed by our companies in the park. Also, for instance, Deloitte is trying to make use of different financial solutions, a different solution to help their operation. So we are working towards that direction as well.
Mr. Dennis Leung, Chairman. In the PowerPoint presentation, I saw there is a figure, $6 billion for value creation. So how did that figure come about? From actual return of investment or valuation of the existing startups, how was the figure arrived at? And also, $110 billion raised. Now, what's the ratio of investments between the HKSTPC and the government's investment? Now, according to the company, the occupancy rate is quite high in the park, so the major source of revenue is rent income. So besides rental income, are there other revenue sources to support the sustained development of the park? And how can you attract more enterprises and startups to become unicorns in the park? Paragraph 16 in the paper, there are multi-story industrial buildings under the 4 categories. They include Precision Manufacturing Center, DT Hub, Medical Accessory, Resilient Supplies, and Advanced Manufacturing Center. Now, for the AMC, the occupancy rate is very low, less than half, at 47%. So what are the bottlenecks we are facing in the development of AMC, or Advanced Manufacturing Industry, in terms of promoting new industrialization and AM industry? Are there innovative strategies to turn these sectors into the growth drivers of Hong Kong? Commissioner, or Mr. Albert Wong. Chairman, value creation is one of our important KPIs. Besides funding support, a major form of support we give the startups is business pairing up. So from the $6 billion, $1 billion is for helping them to pair up with businesses. Now, we have a lot of major partners in the private markets who are willing to try out the new technologies. So the value created means that we have helped the startups to pair up with investors and businesses. Now, the remaining $5 billion is for finding investors for the startups. So we have invited a lot of potential investors to come visit the park and talk to the startups. Now, $110 billion, that's the amount invested in our park. That includes investments in companies like SenseTime and other listed companies. Now, startups have a much smaller scale. Unlike listed companies, if they can create value in the tunes of several millions of dollars, that would be great already. Now, about AMC, in multi-story industrial buildings. Yes, this is something new with a very high standard. It has some 1 million square feet in floor space in size. Now, by the end of last year, the occupancy rate has increased from 47% to some 50%. We have been modifying the multi-story industrial buildings to make it meet the need of AMC better. Now, it took us 11 years to understand what our tenants need in the science park. So I think AMC is going to be a key facility in the future. Now, in terms of operating revenue, besides rental income, how can we make the model sustainable? Now, as Albert has mentioned, after offering grants to the startups, we would get rewards in terms of financial tools. That's like having options in the company. In the future, when the company is listed, when they raise fund, we can have a share in the fund raised. So that's how we are offering continuous support to the startups without taking more money out of our pockets to finance these startups. Mr. Edmund Wong, Chairman, my question is about the corporate venture fund. It has been 10 years on, and some $1.4 billion have been invested to help generate a lot of revenue. So I think the figure is very good because some $9.4 billion have been raised through the fund. So among the 35 technology startups, how many of them have entered the harvest period? And what are the strategies of the startups? Will the SNTPC withdraw the investment, or will they continue to invest in the fund? Now, CVF, when it was launched in 2015, it was just $10 billion in size. Now, it has now become $1 billion in size with some 35 investees. Now, actually, several of them did not survive, but that's normal. There are also several companies with the return tripled or even quadrupled. So we'll continue to increase our holding in the CVF because the fund is effective. For every dollar we invest, we can generate $17 or $18 in co-investment from the private market. Of course, we hope that we can enter the harvesting period soon. There are fields like AI companies or microelectronic companies. We are already seeing thrice or 4 times as much return compared with our investments. So we have an exit mechanism. Please only speak when I invite you to speak, because for the record purpose, that's important. We didn't know who was speaking. So just now, Mr. Aldous Mag was speaking. Mr. Edmund Wong. So in terms of return, I want to know whether some of these startups are already contemplated listing or have already listed. Yes, there are 3 to 4 of them. One is a robotic company from the mainland. We have invested several million of dollars in it, and it is going to be listed. And also there's another one with an orange logo, which is a logistic company who is going to or has been listed. There is an AI company, and there is another robotic company. So I'm aware of 4 to 5 companies who are going to be listed in the coming years. Dr. Wendy Hung. Thank you, Chairman. Now, I am concerned about the occupancy rates of the multi-story industrial buildings in InnoParks. Compared with last year, there are some improvements. For example, the DT Hub's occupancy rate has been increased to 65%. Mars Center, 76%, now raised to 83%. We can see that the efforts of the company is paying off. However, the AMC, Advanced Manufacturing Center, the occupancy rate has only increased from 41% to 47%, still less than half. The government has invested a lot of money, including the $10 billion New Industrialization Acceleration Scheme on promoting new industrialization and advanced manufacturing. So the underwhelming occupancy rate in the AMC, is it because of lackluster market demand, or is it because of high rental fee, or is it because of insufficient support? And has the HASTPC been collaborating with the Oasis and dedicated teams to attract talents to enhance the occupancy rate of AMC? Now, some 125 hectare large sites will be given to the HASTPC for development. So will you adopt the model of Science Technology Park in developing this land? Now, I know that there are some technology parks in the mainland which would like to collaborate with you. They already have a list of enterprises interested in the idea. However, rather than investing in our own park, they would like to have something like a park within a park under their operation in our technology parks. So in developing the 17th Technopole, we will consider innovative operational model, for example, collaborating with mainland parks, with us providing the hardware and then handing over parts of the park for the management of the mainland parks, and let them introduce enterprises into their park. That would be a win-win situation. We have enterprises coming in, occupancy rates would be higher, and also on the part of the mainland technology parks, they don't have to invest in building their own park in Hong Kong. I will defer to my team. Thank you, Dr. Wendy Hung. About the underwhelming occupancy rate in the AMC, the rent is a bit on the high side because of the fitting of the building. The ceiling is some 6 to 9 meters high. That's a bit of an overkill. So over the past year, we have modified the layout of the building a bit. So the occupancy rate has increased from 41% to 47%. We are aiming at 55%. Some colleagues even aim at 70%. Talks are already ongoing. 55% should be safe, but it will take some time for the occupancy rate to rise to 70%. The tenure period is 8 to 9 years, so we have to so the tenants have to make sure that it is the right place for them. Now, 17 Technopole, the 20-hectare large site. You are right, there are a lot of interested technology park operators in the mainland. Park within the park, PPP, and also potential candidates from Oasis. It would be a heavy burden if the government funds the development entirely. I think PPP is needed. And there is also a hiccup. If we use the industrial estate or industrial park model, then ownership would be with the government, and that would be less flexible. Last member, Professor William Wong. Chairman, I declare interest. I'm employed by the CUHK. Now, in year 2000, we witnessed the birth of the Science and Technology Park. In the academia, we were already saying that to enable commercialization, land and R&D is important. So I thank the STPC for engaging in R&D. Since we are your neighbor, we enjoy the benefits being the neighbor of the science and technology parks, and many of our students are now working in the park, so we are grateful.
I have two questions. First, about your ideation and incubation and acceleration programs. That's regarding the ecosystem, the building of the ecosystem. I'd like to ask if you have an overall planning for assisting these startups. If you look at the ladder of development of these startups, in the lower part, your risk would be lower, your investment risk would be lower. Do you have any percentage in your plan of making investments that is related to the kind of gazelle enterprises as mentioned by the national paper? So I think I wonder if you have any overall planning about establishing these gazelle enterprises, or the way you make investment in different startups. Second question, I'd like to know if the government has any plans about how to foster a collaboration between different parks. For instance, the different parks in science and technology in Hong Kong and also in Shenzhen. Thank you, Chair. Professor Wang has raised two questions. Yes, indeed, the entire startup ecosystem, it's actually like a pyramid. At the foundation, it's there may be different new startups, and then rising up, they would need further assistance, such as our acceleration program. It's just like a pyramid. And in recent years, we noticed that on this ecosystem, there are different gaps in the pyramid, and we try our best to fill in those gaps. For instance, we have the venture capital program. This is a way to help the startups at the initial stage, to give them a push, because at that stage it would be difficult for them to raise funds. And also, for instance, the R&D research teams in universities, they are very strong in doing research. However, they may not have the resources or the ways to commercialize their R&D results. And that's why we have a $10 billion fund to assist these R&D teams in the universities to commercialize their research results. And we also have put in efforts in fostering new industrialization. We hope to be able to come to the Finance Committee very soon to apply for funding to assist different enterprises in doing new industrialization. All these efforts speak volume of the effort of the government. It shows that the government knows that it is important to enhance the entire ecosystem. The second question regarding our branch in Shenzhen, the branch park in Shenzhen, because at that time the Hong Kong Shenzhen science park has not been established yet, and at that time we knew that there were a lot of startup or R&D companies who wanted to establish branches in Shenzhen, and that is why the HKSTPC decided to establish its branch park in Fuktian, and we've brought with us over 60 companies to the site, and they are still in operation. And as the Hong Kong Shenzhen Science Park will start to operate at the second half of the year, we understand that it will attract more startups and more companies. But then, of course, this development would be gradual. We know that there are 3 blocks that will be in use in phases within this year. We will try to look at how we could separate the roles so that both parks could fare well. All right, thank you. I think that's the end of our Q&A session, and I'd like to thank the government and also the representative from the HKSTPC to attend our meeting today. And next item, AOB. I don't have any other business. If members have none, then I declare the meeting adjourned. Thank you very much.